We chase a lot in life, don't we? That promotion, a bigger house, thinking those things will finally unlock some, ultimate level of happiness. But what if the real drivers of a good life are actually far more fundamental?
Hmm.
The decades-long Harvard study of adult development points in a surprising direction. It suggests it's less about what you have and much, much more about who you're with. Today, we're diving deep into those findings.
Exactly. Our focus for this deep dive is the book The Good Life, Lessons from the World's Longest Scientific Study of Happiness by Robert Waldinger and Mark Schultz. And to get straight to the heart of this, well, huge amount of research, we're using a fantastic digestible overview from the Yugo YouTube channel.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, consider this your shortcut, sort of, to understanding the core truths about what truly contributes to a fulfilling existence.
So if you're looking for real, research-backed insights into living a happier, healthier life, maybe without getting bogged down in all the academic jargon, you've definitely come to the right place. Our mission today is pretty simple. Extract the most vital lessons about building a good life from this material and really zero in on the incredible power of human connections. We're here to challenge that widespread idea that happiness is all about, external achievements and uncover where genuine well-being really comes from. Okay, let's unpack this, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. One of the first kind of widely held beliefs that this research really puts to the test is the idea that money is the ultimate key to happiness.
Right, the big one.
Yeah. Now, of course, no one can deny that significant financial worries create stress, unhappiness. The study acknowledges that having enough money to cover your basic needs, things like housing, food, healthcare, absolutely prevents a certain kind of unhappiness.
Right. And it's interesting when you look at the data, Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman's work indicates that happiness tends to increase as income rises, but only up to a certain point.
Yeah, there's a ceiling.
Exactly. Around 8 million a year, which is roughly, what, $60,000 to $70,000 USD.
That's about right.
But here's where it gets really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Beyond that level, the increase in happiness pretty much just levels off.
It plateaus.
So more money doesn't automatically buy more joy, but I wonder, what about the type of spending? Does spending on experiences versus, say, material things change that plateau at all?
It's a really interesting question, and other research does look into that.
Yeah.
Well, the core finding here suggests a plateau. How we use our resources certainly matters for well-being, but the Harvard study's main focus really stayed on the impact of relationships. And what they consistently found was, even with more disposable income, if those crucial connections were missing, well, the added wealth didn't really translate into significantly greater happiness. What's fascinating here is considering what people might be sacrificing in the pursuit of, that ever-increasing wealth.
Exactly. It makes you wonder about the trade-offs, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This research hints that the relentless drive for more and more money can often come at the cost of those very things the study highlights as essential: our health, our close relationships, quality time with family and friends. You might achieve that high income, but find yourself feeling, well, isolated.
Right.
So for someone who's really driven by career success, how can they consciously avoid falling into that relationship deficit? Is that something the study addressed?
That's a crucial question. And yeah, the studies suggest intentionality is absolutely key. It's about consciously carving out time and energy for nurturing relationships, even when you have demanding careers. It's not about choosing one over the other entirely, but about finding a balance.
Yeah.
And recognizing the long-term value of those connections for your overall well-being. The study seems to indicate that aiming for a comfortable financial foundation, maybe around 4 to 5 million annually, enough to live without that constant financial anxiety, might be a more beneficial target.
Right. Cover the basics, reduce the stress.
Exactly. And that allows you to then prioritize those happiness-fueling connections. So the main message there is that while money provides a kind of safety net against unhappiness, it doesn't guarantee a truly rich life.
Okay. Moving on to the other side of the coin, then. The research really underscores the profound negative impact of loneliness. It's not just a fleeting feeling of sadness. The study emphasizes that loneliness has tangible, almost physical effects on our bodies.
Absolutely. The findings show that chronic loneliness can actually heighten your sensitivity to pain. It can weaken your immune system's effectiveness, contribute to cognitive decline over time,
Wow.
disrupt your sleep patterns, and leave you with this persistent sense of fatigue and irritability.
So it really gets under your skin, so to speak.
It really does.
Hmm.
It's as if your body is under a constant state of stress because of this lack of social connection.
Yeah, this part really hit home for me. They discovered that individuals with the fewest social connections had significantly higher mortality rates compared to those with strong social networks.
The numbers are stark.
They really are. For men, it was about 2.3 times higher, and for women, a striking 2.8 times higher.
That's substantial.
To put in perspective, we're talking about roughly a 50% difference in survival rates between the most and least connected people. That's huge.
It is.
It completely reframes how we should think about social interaction. It's not just a nice to have, it appears to be a fundamental requirement for our health and, well, longevity.
And if we connect this to a broader evolutionary perspective, our deep-seated need for connection makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, think about prehistoric times. Our survival was just inextricably linked to our social groups. We relied on those bonds for protection, for sharing resources, for raising offspring.
Safety in numbers, basically.
Exactly. In that context, feeling isolated would have been a critical threat signal, a real danger.
Ah, okay. So that feeling of loneliness we experience today is like a modern day danger alarm, signaling to our brains that our survival is potentially at risk. That evolutionary angle really helps understand its power.
Precisely. And on the flip side, strong social connections act almost like a powerful anesthetic.
Anesthetic, how?
They can reduce both physical and emotional pain, create a strong sense of security and belonging, and contribute significantly to both improved longevity and overall health. The study even found that robust relationships can buffer the impact of physical discomfort on your overall happiness levels.
So even if you're dealing with physical ailments, having close relationships can help maintain your sense of well-being.
That's what the findings suggest. It's quite remarkable.
It's interesting, too, that the source material touches on the difficulties some individuals might face, particularly, say, single older men, in building and maintaining these connections.
hmm It acknowledges that challenge.
But it also highlights that even seemingly small interactions, like having a pet that provides companionship, or just engaging in brief, casual chats with people you encounter, can make a noticeable positive difference.
Little moments count.
Yeah. So the core insight here is just undeniable. Social connection isn't just some pleasant add-on to life. It's absolutely foundational to our physical and mental health.
Okay, so given this overwhelming evidence for the importance of connection, the natural next question is, how do we do it? How do we actively cultivate these connections in our, fast-paced modern lives?
Right, practical steps.
Exactly. And the source material provides some really practical, actionable strategies. The first one focuses on the power of presence. Stop scrolling, start connecting.
Okay, stop scrolling, start connecting.
It really highlights the paradox of our time. We have more potential for connection than ever before through technology, right? Yet many feel increasingly isolated, and it points directly to our devices, our smartphones, and the internet as a significant factor.
Let's really dig into this. It's about this constant divided attention, isn't it? We're physically in the same room as someone, but our minds are often elsewhere, scrolling, checking emails.
Exactly. And what's particularly insightful here is the impact of this divided attention on the quality of our interactions.
Okay.
When we're not fully present with someone, when we're constantly glancing at our phones, it fundamentally diminishes the value of that interaction.
Yeah.
It can easily make the other person feel unimportant, like they're not your priority.
Oh, it's so true. Think about being in a conversation with someone who keeps looking at their phone. It sends a clear message, doesn't it? Even if it's unintentional, that something else is more engaging than what you're saying.
Yeah,
The source really emphasizes that giving someone your complete, undivided attention is actually a really valuable and meaningful gift.
absolutely. The source even alludes to this idea of smartphone brain, suggesting that simply having your phone in view during a conversation can subtly undermine concentration and even erode trust.
Just having it sitting there on the table.
Apparently so. It signals a potential distraction, a divided focus.
Wow. Okay. So the advice is really straightforward then about put your phone away when you're with people.
Mm-hmm. Out of sight, ideally.
Make eye contact, show genuine interest in what they're saying, ask follow-up questions, make observations about them or the situation you're sharing.
Right. It contrasts those who struggle with connection as constantly having their attention fragmented and directed elsewhere.
So the key message here is that intentionally focusing on the person right in front of you is absolutely vital for building strong, meaningful relationships.
Makes sense. Another practical strategy, and this one might push some of us outside our comfort zones, is to talk more, regret less.
Okay, talk more, regret less.
This directly addresses that fear of rejection or awkwardness that often stops us from initiating conversations, especially with people we don't know well.
Right. How many times have you considered striking up a conversation with a stranger, maybe on the train, in a coffee shop line, but then hesitated, worried about it being unwelcome or just plain weird?
All the time. But the source shares a fascinating finding from a University of Chicago study involving commuters.
Oh, yeah. What did they find?
What's remarkable is that the majority of people who actually did engage in conversations with strangers during their commute reported feeling more positive afterward compared to their usual silent routine.
Really? More positive.
Yeah. And maybe even more surprising, those who were on the receiving end of the conversation generally felt better too.
That's actually quite surprising. It suggests that our fear of bothering people or having a negative interaction might be, well, significantly overblown.
It seems so. The source even gives relatable everyday examples, like making a brief, friendly connection with the barista at your local coffee place.
Well, little moments.
Exactly. These seemingly small interactions can actually elevate your mood and foster a sense of connection within your community.
So the underlying message here is don't let that fear of awkwardness be a barrier. Most interactions are likely to be far more positive and mutually beneficial than we tend to imagine. Maybe because fewer people initiate, it makes you stand out in a good way when you do.
That's a good point. The next point really highlights the ongoing nature of relationships. Relationships need nurturing. It uses a very apt analogy here, comparing our connections to living plants.
Okay, like watering a plant.
Precisely. The idea is that just like plants need consistent watering and care to flourish, our relationships will wither and fade if they don't receive regular attention and effort.
We've all probably experienced that, right? Friendships drifting apart simply because of a lack of proactive contact over time. Life just gets in the way.
Exactly. Life gets busy, and it's easy to let those connections slide. The source emphasizes the crucial need to regularly reach out to the important people in your life, your partner, your family, your close friends, and to actively suggest doing things together, regardless of how big or small the occasion might seem. Just make the effort.
And it really stresses taking initiative, doesn't it? Don't always wait for an invitation. Be the one to suggest getting together sometimes.
Yes. The source reminds us that people often genuinely appreciate and welcome invitations, even from those they might not know incredibly well.
Mm.
It shows you value the connection.
So the crucial point here is that maintaining strong and vibrant relationships demands conscious effort and consistent engagement. It doesn't just happen automatically.
Definitely not.
Mm.
This next point is a really important reminder for many of us living in our often work-obsessed culture. Don't sacrifice relationships for work.
The work-life balance issue?
Kind of, but specifically focused on relationships. The source acknowledges that work can provide a vital sense of purpose, achievement, even social interaction. It's undoubtedly a significant part of life for many people.
Sure.
However, it strongly cautions against allowing our professional lives to completely eclipse our personal relationships.
And it brings up that very common end-of-life reflection, right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
People very rarely look back and wish they had spent more hours in the office. Instead, the regrets overwhelmingly tend to center around wishing for more quality time with their loved ones, family, friends.
Yeah. And it highlights the potential for social isolation that can arise upon retirement, particularly for individuals whose social life has been almost exclusively tied to their workplace.
When that professional structure dissolves, those connections can often fade away as well.
And it mentions this might be especially relevant for men.
Yes, the source points out that men, statistically speaking, might tend to rely more heavily on workplace relationships for their social needs, so retirement can hit their social network harder sometimes.
Okay.
And interestingly, for those who do experience loneliness in retirement, it suggests that engaging in some form of work, maybe part-time or in a completely different field, can be a valuable way to foster social interaction again.
That makes sense. Finding new structures.
Right. So the core message here is about finding a healthy balance. A truly fulfilling life prioritizes nurturing relationships alongside professional pursuits, leading to greater long-term well-being. Build diverse connections before you retire.
Good advice. Okay, the next strategy shifts focus a bit more towards the quality of our connections. Know your inner circle.
Yeah, this one is quite practical. It wisely points out that attempting to maintain a vast number of deep, meaningful friendships is often unrealistic. It can even be emotionally draining.
Quality over quantity.
Definitely. Here, quality takes precedence over quantity.
And it suggests a specific exercise.
Yes, a really practical one. Take a moment to actually identify the 10 key people in your life. Your closest family members, your partner, your dearest friends, those individuals you truly rely on and who genuinely enrich your life the most.
Just 10. That seems manageable, but also maybe small for some people.
Well, the idea is to consciously direct your energy towards actively nurturing these core relationships, while also, of course, remaining open to those smaller, more casual connections that can also bring joy and support.
Okay.
The source directly addresses the listener here, acknowledging that you might feel like you don't currently have 10 close connections.
Yeah, what if you can't list 10?
It gently suggests that this might be a consequence of unintentionally neglecting relationships over time, but it offers an encouraging perspective. It's genuinely never too late to begin rebuilding and expanding your social circle.
So there's hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perhaps joining a club based on a shared hobby or volunteering for a cause you care about these can be great avenues for meeting like-minded people.
Yeah.
It reiterates that both the frequency and the depth of your interactions with these close contacts are crucial contributors to your overall happiness.
Frequency and depth. Got it.
And interestingly, it also advises against completely cutting off weaker ties, acquaintances, because those can sometimes evolve into stronger connections over time with a little effort.
Right. Don't burn bridges unnecessarily.
Exactly. So the key insight here is to really identify and actively invest in that core group of supportive relationships in your life. Know who they are.
Makes sense. Finally, the last practical strategy might seem deceptively simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Genuine interest goes a long way.
Yes.
The source anticipates a question many listeners might have at this point. Okay, I get it. Relationships are vital, but what do I actually talk about? How do I connect?
Exactly. You know you should connect. But sometimes the actual mechanics of initiating and sustaining conversations can feel a bit daunting, can't they?
Definitely.
But the source distills it down to this fundamental principle. Cultivate a genuine curiosity about other people.
Genuine curiosity.
Yes, it gives examples of simply being interested in what others are doing, what their passions are, what their daily lives are like, just wanting to know more about them.
Okay.
It even references Dale Carnegie's timeless classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Remember that one? It highlights that the very first principle he outlines is to become genuinely interested in other people. And that book was written way back in 1936.
Wow, so this isn't exactly new advice.
Not at all. Which really underscores the enduring importance of this fundamental human dynamic.
The source does acknowledge, though, that some people might feel a bit hesitant, maybe worried about asking personal questions, overstepping boundaries, especially today.
Yes, it acknowledges that potential hesitancy may be due to past negative experiences or just a general fear of causing offense. But it ultimately comes back to the core idea that positive interactions with others are inherently fulfilling, usually for both people involved.
Right.
And it strongly encourages asking questions that stem from a place of sincere curiosity. When you're genuinely interested, people tend to open up more, and it naturally deepens your understanding of them and strengthens the connection.
So it's not about being nosy, it's about being genuinely interested.
Precisely. So the ultimate takeaway here is that cultivating that authentic curiosity about others is really the foundational element for both initiating and deepening meaningful relationships.
Okay. So to kind of bring together the key insights from our deep dive into the good life, we've seen the overwhelming evidence for how crucial rich human connection is for our overall happiness and well-being, often far outweighing the impact of material wealth beyond a certain basic level.
The foundation.
We've explored the very real and frankly quite detrimental effects of loneliness on both our physical and mental health. Those mortality stats were eye-opening.
They really were.
And we've unpacked some really actionable strategies for cultivating stronger relationships in our daily lives. Things like being fully present, putting the phone away,
Undivided attention.
proactively taking the initiative to connect, consistently nurturing our existing bonds, striving for that healthy balance between work and personal life,
Knowing your core group.
identifying and investing in our core social support system, and maybe most importantly, approaching others with genuine curiosity and interest.
That covers it well. It prompts a really important personal reflection, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As you, the listener, consider your own life and the relationships within it. What's one small intentional step you could take, maybe even today, to strengthen a connection with someone who truly matters to you?
Hmm, just one small thing.
Just one.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Perhaps at the very heart of all our pursuits in life, whether it's a cherished hobby that brings us joy or the work we dedicate ourselves to, maybe underneath it all lies this fundamental, deeply ingrained human need, the need to connect with others.
It's a powerful thought.
Definitely something to ponder.